The Sheik of Araby is the 11th episode of the 4th season of the Doris Day Show. This is directed by Richard Kinon, and I enjoyed the last kind of 2 minutes, but everything else was rather boring. I'm really disappointed because season 4 of the Doris Day Show has been very hit and miss, and we had some good episodes, and then we've just had a couple of back-to-back really boring, dire episodes. And for the most part, unfortunately, this is one of them. So there will be some spoilers as I discuss the bit that I liked, but in general, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail. Doris is kidnapped by Middle Eastern revolutionaries who are trying to get the king to abdicate. And Doris becomes involved in this, and it's ridiculous and unbelievable and unrealistic and ludicrous. And that's not to say every story that I watch or enjoy has to be 100% believable, but I wasn't buying this one. If this was the only ludicrous Doris Day Show story, then I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I wouldn't enjoy it, but that wouldn't be an issue. But we've had quite a few situations where Doris becomes involved in something that's just completely unrealistic. And the way this plays out definitely isn't realistic. I don't think it works very well as a story. The pacing is fine. We get to the point quite quickly, and a decent amount of variety happens. But I didn't care for any of the characters, and I didn't really like Doris as a character. Ultimately, what she brought to this, I liked the last couple of minutes, but leading up to that, I just didn't find her character to be that interesting, and that's a shame because even when the narratives are boring, I love watching Doris Day perform, but as a character, Doris Martin's becoming quite boring as well. Well, that's not fair. In some episodes of season 4, she's not that interesting. Maybe I'm just pining for the previous 3 seasons, but it feels like such a different show, and sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it works. But with episodes like this, it just really doesn't. It's not a good story. I don't believe it. I don't think it worked very well. But the last few minutes were. Basically, the point when I started to enjoy it is, interestingly, actually, when Cyril Bennett came back into it, because I never really took to Cyril Bennett for quite a long time. I say that. I realise that we're still quite early into season 4. Well, approaching halfway. But it took me a really good few episodes to actually begin to like Cyril Bennett as a character. And yet I've found that with the last few episodes, the moments I've enjoyed the most are often scenes focusing on Cyril Bennett, or at least scenes where he's present, and that's not something I was necessarily expecting. So he came back into it, he had a gun pointed to his head, and Doris gave this brief speech that basically saved everybody, and the revolution was perfect and everything went in the right direction, because all it takes is Doris Martin to say a couple of sentences while the radio is accidentally still on so everybody can hear. And that's all it takes to solve this giant political problem. It's ludicrous. I don't care for the narrative. I did like those last few minutes though, because it was very well written. The performances were very good. Cyril Bennett brought something quite fun to it as well. So it's not a good episode. It's not a good story. I didn't even love Doris Martin as a character in this. I didn't dislike her, don't get me wrong, but usually I love her, and that just wasn't the case here. The Sheik of Araby is not a good episode. The previous episode was not a good episode, although, credit where it's due, they took a break from somebody flirting with Doris, because that seemed to be a recurring theme, although I'm not saying it's completely void of any affection or compliments here, but it's nice to have a slight shift in focus. We'll see what the next episode is like. I will go into each one with an open mind and always hoping for the best, but the last few, they haven't been great.